They don't wear uniforms. They don't clock out. But they run South Africa's most dangerous prisons with an iron fist and a sharpened blade. Inside the crumbling walls of Polsmoor and other correctional institutions lies a secret society, far more organized, more feared, and more powerful than the officials guarding them. They call themselves the Numbers Gang, and in a world where survival is currency, they hold the only bank account that matters: fear, violence, and blood loyalty. They say it all began on a dusty road in Durban. A mysterious man named Po crossed paths with two young Zulu boys heading to the mines, looking for work and a future. But instead of jobs, Po offered them something else: a life of crime, freedom, and power. He recruited them, along with 15 other teens, and led them down a darker path. Together, they robbed miners and travelers, living like ghosts on the edge of colonial rule. Po didn't just teach them to steal, he gave them a secret language, a code only they could understand. They became brothers in blood, carving their crimes onto a large rock, marking every robbery, every strike. That rock became their diary, their law, and their history book. It wasn't just a gang, it was a movement. But as the group grew, so did the danger, and Po knew it couldn't last forever. To keep the law from catching them all at once, Po split the gang in two. He told each of the Zulu boys to lead a group, one with 7 members, the other with 8. This wasn't random. The numbers would later become legendary: 27 and 28. The number 2, standing for the 2 leaders, remained the soul of it all, the silent code behind the numbers. When Po died, the boys carried on his mission, but they also drifted apart. The groups began working separately, writing their own rules and forming identities of their own. One gang ruled by order, the other by force. Their original bond turned into rivalry, but the foundation remained, a belief that they were more than criminals. They were soldiers in a war, a family in exile. And soon, they took their war into the prison system. The 27s and 28s didn't just survive behind bars, they grew stronger. Their rules, once written in stone, now lived in whispers and scars. But while they were rooted in legend, something new was coming. Inside the prisons of South Africa, a third gang was born, not from the legacy of Po, but from the fear he left behind. This new gang would not wait for stories. It was built to survive. The 26s were formed by men who had no place in the old tale. They were tired of being targets, bullied by the 27s and 28s who claimed authority. So they made their own gang based on money instead of myths. They tried to get to safety by gaming, smuggling, and paying people off. They had a Zulu leader named Gray who was from the south of Durban and knew how to get things done. Gray didn't care for legends. He cared for results. His gang controlled the prison economy, cigarettes, even wardens. If something could be bought or sold, the 26s owned it. And with money came protection, influence, and a seat at the table. While the 27s enforced justice and the 28s fought wars, the 26s funded them both. Inside South Africa's prisons, the Numbers Gang became more than just a group. It became a structure, a system, a shadow government. The 26s, 27s, and 28s divided power, territory, and time. Each gang had a purpose. Each gang had rules, and none of them were afraid to spill blood to keep order. But behind all the violence was something more, a belief. Whether truth or legend, the origin story of Po and the boys gave the gangs meaning. Tattoos told the tale. Rituals followed the old ways. New recruits, barely teenagers, would hear the myth and believe it was history. And in their minds, joining the numbers wasn't just survival, it was destiny. In 1990, a boy named John Mongrel walked through the gates of Polsmoor maximum security prison. He was just 14. His crime? The sentence was 9 years, but he would never see life outside those walls again. What began as punishment became something far darker, his transformation into a prison god. By the age of 15, Mongrel had already made his name in blood. He didn't just want to survive Polsmoor, he wanted to control it. To prove himself, he committed one of the most brutal acts in the prison's history. In cold silence, he a prison warden 14 times in the heart. That moment sealed his fate, and his place among the 28s was confirmed. The 28s weren't just a gang, they were a kingdom of To climb their ranks, one needed more than muscle, they needed cruelty. Mongrel had both, and he used them well. From soldier to inspector, from captain to general, his rise was quick and deadly. No one in Polsmoor forgot his name after that. He didn't smile, didn't hesitate, didn't forgive. The general of the 28s ruled with rage and fear. It was said he could without blinking, order executions with a glance, and turn hardened men into trembling shadows. Even prison staff didn't dare speak his name too loudly. Inside his dark world, power came at a price. Mongrel made sure no one defied the code. He gave warnings in and mercy wasn't part of his rulebook. Inmates who broke the rules disappeared, sometimes in pieces. The walls of Polsmoor became his throne, and the screams, they were part of the background music. He saw the 26s and 27s not as rivals, but as obstacles. And obstacles were removed. Under his watch, the 28s crushed every challenge. Deals were broken. Alliances ended with blades. If someone disrespected the chain of command, they paid with their life. This was Mongrel's law. His followers called him God. Not because he saved them, but because he controlled everything. When they ate, when they bled, when they died. There were no elections, no vote of confidence, just fear. A single word from him was enough to set off a riot or a massacre. He didn't lead like a man, he ruled like a storm. Many say he orchestrated over 100 within prison walls. Some he committed himself. Others were carried out by loyal foot soldiers who needed no questions, just orders. The bodies piled up. No investigation ever touched him. The code of silence was stronger than justice. Even as the world outside Polsmoor changed, Mongrel remained untouched. He didn't need his weapon was the legend he built. New inmates feared his name before they even saw his face. Some tried to challenge him. None succeeded. Those who dared were broken, bones first, then spirit. There were no deals with Mongrel, no turning back. Once someone joined under his flag, they were bound for life. Tattoos weren't just marks, they were oaths, written in ink and even the bravest prisoners knew better than to cross a line. If they did, the punishment was swift and final. Over time, Mongrel became more than a man in Polsmoor. He became the nightmare behind every locked door. New wardens were warned about him before their first shift. Veteran officers pretended not to see things. Reports vanished. Cameras stopped working. Because everyone knew, you don't survive in Polsmoor by going against Mongrel. It wasn't just about power, it was about control. Mongrel's system ran like a machine. Phones, protection, everything went through him. If someone wanted to eat in peace or live till morning, they had to pay respect. If they didn't, they vanished. Simple. In the darkest corners of Polsmoor, there are still stories about him. Whispers in the yard, shadows in the cells. Some say he's no longer the same man. Others believe he's still the puppet master behind the scenes. Whether he's locked away or pulling strings through others, one thing is clear. John Mongrel changed the meaning of power behind bars. He didn't just survive prison, he became it. In the violent world of South African prisons, the numbers gang is not just a gang, it's a government. It controls every second of the day behind bars. This control is split by time. From midnight to noon, the 26s and 27s hold power. From noon until midnight, the 28s take over. The clock decides who gives orders and who must follow. And if a prisoner disobeys the clock, they don't get a second chance. This system isn't just tradition, it's law, enforced in and fear. Even in chaos, the numbers have discipline. Every action has a purpose. Each gang has its job, and each job keeps the machine running. The 26s deal with money, bribes, cell phones. The 27s are the judges and messengers, trusted to keep order and settle fights. But the 28s, they're the sword of the system. They fight and protect the empire. When violence is needed, they're the first to move. And when a message must be sent, they send it in red. Inside the 28s, ranks decide life and everyone starts in the 3rd division, the lowest but deadliest tier. These soldiers carry out in ambushes. They're the ones you meet when you cross the line. They earn their place through and only moves them up. There are no shortcuts, only wounds and scars. Next comes the inspector. He watches the soldiers, trains new recruits, and leads initiation rites. When a prisoner joins the 28s, it's the inspector who marks him, sometimes with fire. He approves every that isn't done by order. His tattoos speak for him. 4 stars, 2 on each shoulder, showing that he is not to be questioned. When he walks by, silence follows. Above the inspector is the captain. He's not just another gang member, he's a strategist, a commander in the shadows. Trusted by the general and feared by the rest, the captain doesn't speak often, but when he does, everyone listens. His voice carries weight, not because it's loud, but because it means something dangerous is about to happen. When orders come from the captain, there's no room for hesitation. He decides when to strike, when to hold back, and when to unleash chaos. If the general is the head of the 28s, the captain is the hand that moves the He's also the general's voice during silence and his fury during war. If someone crosses the line, it's the captain who delivers the consequences. He doesn't need to raise a The knowledge he holds of names, of secrets, of structure is enough. It's said that to be noticed by the captain is either the beginning of your rise or the start of your downfall. But above all ranks, at the very top, stands the general, the god of the 28s. His word can raise a man or bury him. Life and both rest in his command. All in the gang are his property, and every attack must be approved by him. He doesn't need to fight. Others do that for him. His control is so complete that even silence becomes a form of power. A single nod, a single glance, can move men into action. You know a general when you see him. 8 stars mark his rank, 4 on each shoulder, earned not just through but through brilliance, ruthlessness, and leadership. These stars aren't just tattoos, they're warnings. They burn with the weight of his authority. But what truly separates the numbers gang from others is their structure, not just in ranks, but in how they mirror the prison itself. Their most powerful symbol is the mirror ritual. A prisoner stands before a warden holding a mirror. This mirror moment isn't about respect, it's about reflection. The gang sees the prison as an enemy with ranks just like theirs. Wardens aren't people, they're opponents. Officers have rules, but the numbers have codes, and their codes are older, crueler, and final. When a warden strikes a prisoner, the gang strikes back twice as hard. The mirror tells them, whatever you do to us, we will do worse. The numbers gang doesn't just survive in prison, it rules it. Its rules are older than most of the inmates. Generations have passed them down in whispers, ink, and tattoos become armor, eyes become a man's loyalty is tested daily, and hesitation is punished. There is no freedom in prison, but for the numbers, there is power. That power comes from unity, structure, and terror. Behind the gates, the guards may wear the uniforms, but they don't always have control. When a fight breaks out, the guards might step aside. They know better. They know the gang punishes betrayal in ways they can't stop. They know the codes are written in scars, and that once someone joins the numbers, they never leave. Every member knows his place. Every second has its master. Time is not just a measure, it's a command. If a 26 speaks during the 28's hours, it could mean war. If a 28 disobeys during the 26's hours, it could mean even talking, walking, and eating follow the gang's time. Nothing is done without permission. Nothing is safe without rank. In the dark corners of South Africa's most dangerous prisons, new inmates are never alone. Eyes watch them from the moment they arrive, silent, sharp, and cold. These eyes belong to a man known only as the binoculars. He never speaks, he simply watches. Every move, every reaction, every glance is noted, analyzed, and reported. He doesn't miss a heartbeat. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation. The binoculars is no ordinary prisoner. He's an elder, a judge, a recruiter, He looks for weakness but also for fire. He studies how a new inmate walks, how he responds to being bumped, how he looks others in the eye. Does he flinch? Is he defiant? Can he if asked? These silent tests decide a man's fate before he even knows he's being tested. In this world, a wrong look can be a sentence or a key to power. Once selected, a recruit's test begins. It's called the task. There are no warnings, no second chances, no mercy. The gang's general, a man who never speaks without purpose, hands over the knife. This isn't just metal. It carries history, loyalty, and the recruit must someone. Sometimes it's another prisoner. Other times, it's a guard. The more daring the attack, the higher the respect. Gouging out a guard's eye is considered the highest offering, a violent badge of honor. The recruit doesn't act alone. He's watched by elders. Failure means success opens the door to initiation. The moment the blade sinks into flesh, something changes. The boy becomes a soldier. His hands, once innocent, are now soaked in that links him to every violent act before him. It's not just an action, it's a signature on a lifelong contract, a blood pact. The prison might hold him, but the gang owns him now. What follows is ceremony, but not the kind that brings candles or peace. Rituals are brutal. Tattoos are burnt into flesh. Elders carve them with razor blades or melted plastic. Each mark has meaning. Each scar tells a story. Who he stabbed, what rank he joined, which path he walks. Some initiates are made to kneel for hours. Others are beaten until they can't stand. All are made to bleed. And when their blood mixes with the gang's ink, they become brothers in crime. Terror becomes a tool. For new recruits, fear is both the test and the reward. Many come in broken, orphans, ex-soldiers, boys left behind by the world. The gang offers them identity, but it doesn't come free. Some are forced to mutilate themselves, cutting symbols into their skin to show they belong. Others are starved, beaten, and humiliated until they break and rebuild themselves in the gang's image. This isn't about pain, it's about loyalty, and pain is the price. But the gang's grip doesn't end with prisoners. The walls aren't thick enough to keep out corruption. Some warders, prison guards, are brought in, not as enemies, but as assets. Some are threatened. Help us, or your family. Others are offered cash. Women. Slowly, surely, these warders become part of the system. They smuggle knives and cell phones. They look away during attacks. They pass messages. They become shields. And once they're in, there's no way out. In this system, no one is safe. No one is untouched. A warden may wear a uniform, but behind that badge, he may carry the gang's orders. And even those who resist don't escape. Some are framed, others are hunted. The gang keeps score. They never forget. Loyalty is expected, and betrayal is punished in ways too brutal to speak aloud. This structure, built on fear, sealed in has survived decades. It's more than tradition, it's survival. Every act of violence isn't just a crime, it's a right. And every recruit, no matter how young or scared, is taught one thing above all. The gang comes first. Above the law, above life, above everything. Because once the flows, it doesn't stop. Polsmoor was never just a prison. It became a city behind bars, a place where law and order flipped upside down. Inside these walls, the gangs rule, not the government. It was built to correct, but ended up becoming the heart of organized chaos. The cells are bursting. There are more inmates than beds, more rage than space. The air smells of sweat, steel, and fear. Wardens are outnumbered, underpaid, and worn down. Many don't even try to take control anymore. They just survive. Every reform is a headline, nothing more. Politicians talk, but inside Polsmoor, nothing changes. For every gang member that's locked up, another takes his place, quicker, younger, and more dangerous. The uniforms don't run the show. The real power lives with the men covered in tattoos, with numbers carved into their skin. Here, violence is not random, it's the law. The gang decides who eats, who bleeds, who dies. One mistake, one wrong look, and a blade answers. These aren't just fights. They're warnings, executions, messages, and everyone listens. Because in this prison, silence isn't safety, it's survival. No one trusts the system anymore. It's not about justice, it's about territory. There are no wards of the state, only soldiers of the numbers. Gangs have turned prison into a school of war. New inmates arrive, scared, broken, easy to shape. And the gang turns that fear into loyalty, through pain, through rituals, through blood. Outside the prison walls, it's no different. From inside these cells, gang leaders give orders, names, targets, instructions. The streets obey men who haven't felt the sun in years. Drugs are sold, people vanish, businesses pay for protection. The gang's grip stretches across towns like invisible barbed wire. There's no real difference between inside and outside anymore. The system failed, and what took its place doesn't need elections or laws. It runs on fear, on scars. When John Mongrel in 2014, many hoped the nightmare would stop. He was the most feared general of the 28s. His name alone could freeze a room, but his death didn't end the chaos. It invited more. Without his control, the walls bled again. New leaders rose, each hungrier than the last. Power changed hands with knives, not votes. Bodies were found stuffed in lockers, stabbed in showers, strangled in stairwells. But even as the ran fresh, Mongrel's ghost lingered. He built the modern structure of the numbers. He gave them rules, rank, and ruthless discipline. That structure didn't with him, it grew teeth. Recruits are still told his story. His name is etched into prison walls. He became a myth that still commands loyalty long after he's gone. You can lock the doors, but you can't cage the system. That sentence appeared, scratched into a cell wall after Mongrel's funeral. No one knows who wrote it, but everyone understands it. The gang culture isn't locked in. It flows through the cracks, into courts, into cities, into the bones of broken communities. Stopping it would take more than police and prisons. It would take rebuilding homes, schools, trust, giving young boys something to believe in other than knives and numbers. But right now, that's just a dream. Instead, the pipeline keeps flowing. Kids get pulled in earlier, families break faster, and each year, new generals are chosen, not on stage, but in showers, over bodies. The numbers gang no longer needs to hide. It doesn't whisper, it roars. Judges know it. Politicians know it, but too many look away. Because as long as poverty lives, as long as hope dies young, the gang will grow stronger. And the walls of Polsmoor will keep breathing, choosing who lives and who vanishes next. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.